Hey guys, it's Justin. Hope you guys are having a good Wednesday. I been doing a couple videos that are a little bit different lately, and thought I might get back to my knife reviews. This is one I actually just picked up yesterday at Blademan's Knife Shop in Fort Wayne. So shout out to Mark there. Check them out if you haven't. I'm not sure if they have an online store, but I would assume if you contact them via Facebook, you could probably order something. But if you're in the Indiana, Ohio, Michigan area, be sure to check out the store in Fort Wayne. Mark's a great guy, and they have a great selection of Spyderco Benchmade, Medford, Civivi, Microtech, and he also has some customs that he keeps in stock. So anyway, when I was there yesterday, I picked up this Benchmade Fact Automatic with the carbon fiber scales, and I believe this is titanium here. This is a knife I've been on the fence about for a few months now. I like the look of it a lot. I was a little, unsure about the automatic feature. I've never liked the way Benchmade's automatics are, although I think some of that can be attributed to the fact that I haven't really been using them correctly. I'll kind of explain that more in a minute. And then also the price is definitely caused me pause on this guy, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in the price section of my review. So yeah, anyway, let's go ahead and get started. This is the Benchmade Fact Automatic, and this is my review of it. So looking at blade steel, I think in the past I've mentioned S90V as a score of a 9. I actually looked back at my 940-1 review, which is also an S90V as this knife is. You can see here. And I had given it a score of an 8. I kind of struggle with blade steel sometimes in terms of scoring because there are so many steels out there, and they can be so similar. But anyway, I went ahead and gave this a score of an 8 for blade steel. I think S90V, you might be able to argue it's a 9. The LMAX on my Shirogorov, I gave an 8. Maybe you could argue it's a 9. Somewhere between an 8 and a 9, I'd say. A 10's pretty easy, 204p, M390, 20CV. But yeah, when you're talking like S90V or even like S110V, maybe that would be a 9. But anyway, so I gave this I gave the steel a score of an 8. Looking at the clip on this is one of the best clips I've ever seen on any knife. Benchmade really knocked it out of the park with this clip. It's black. I think this is coated. Deep carry, very deep carry. Not much of the knife sticks out of your pocket at all. The screws are not recessed, but I carried it in a pair of thick shorts yesterday and did not find that to be a problem. So I gave the clip a score of a 9 on this knife. The only reason I didn't give it a 10 is because I expect the finish on it to pick up marks as I carry it more. But you can kind of see one right there at the top. Not a huge deal, but it's one of the best clips I've ever encountered on a knife. So I think a 9 is a very, very fair score. Lock type, this uses the axis lock, even though it is an automatic. So you can see here to put the blade in, you have to pull the axis lock back, push the blade into the handle, which compresses the spring. And then it does have a lock on the back, so you can push this forward, maybe. Push it forward to lock the knife, so if I try to basically engage the blade, it's locked in there. But when I pull this back, you can see it here better. When I pull this back, then the blade is free to move. So I just pull back the axis lock and the blade deploys. So as I mentioned, in the past, I've kind of stayed away from Benchmade's automatics because what I've tried to do is use the thumb studs on those instead of using the axis lock as the deployment mechanism, which, having this one, I kind of feel like an idiot doing that. It just, it's rather unsafe because your finger or your thumb's near the blade, and it just makes it a lot harder to deploy the blade. This one, it doesn't have thumb studs, so there's really no way to deploy it aside from the axis lock, and it's really simple. All you do is hold it, pull the axis lock back, and it deploys smooth every time. So I've really grown to like the action on this knife a lot, and I'm figuring I'll probably end up buying more Benchmade automatics just because of the way the axis lock and the spring-loaded blade interact. It's just a really nice design, to be honest. So anyway, in terms of lock type, this is the axis lock, and when it's open, you can actually push this forward to lock the axis lock, so you cannot close the blade, which is kind of a nice feature too. Moving on to materials, this has very nice materials. I gave it a score of a 10. I believe this is titanium here. And then you have the carbon fiber scales, you know, the steel torque screws, but it has a really nice deep carry clip. I don't know, that might not be painted. That might be actually coated. It feels pretty smooth, and it looks very consistent. That might be a coating. But yeah, just really nice materials, nice coated blade here. Sorry about the oil. It's a little bit reflective in the light. So anyway, I gave the materials a score of 10 on this. Looking at the size, this is a pretty long knife. I would compare it to an Italian stiletto, and I think that's kind of the design language that Benchmade was going for. So I'll bring in the Mannix here, as well as the Buck 110. And yeah, you can see here, very long, slender knife, about as long as the 110, about maybe half an inch longer than the Mannix. So pretty good size. In terms of weight, it's also pretty lightweight. The materials on the handle lend themselves to that, and also it's a very thin blade, so yeah, it's nice and light in the pocket. Hardly even notice it's there. Moving on to action, I had a little bit of a difficult time rating this action. I just kind of thought about it as an automatic knife, and you know, what would I want in an automatic knife action? So I mean, yeah, it doesn't really leave anything to be desired. I mean, it closes without, you know, an extraneous amount of force. It opens with authority, but it's not like overly forceful when it opens. It locks up nicely, and yeah, it's a smooth action, not gritty at all. So I gave it a 10 for action. You know, again, it's an automatic knife, but thinking about other, not out the front automatics, I always forget what these are called. Thinking about other automatics that I've tried in this same style, this is definitely one of the best. So moving on to hardware, this one shares similar hardware to other Benchmades in that the pivot is a T10 and these small screws are T6s, which is fine. I did knock it a couple points because I tend to lump in ease of disassembly into hardware. I did knock it a couple points down to a 6 because this is an automatic. It's going to be a little trickier to disassemble. Could probably give it a 7, but I'm going to stick with a 6 on this. I wouldn't recommend disassembling this knife. You might be comfortable with it. You know, feel free to try it, but if there are any issues, I'd probably just send it back to Benchmade. Looking at the price, this is one that I really did. I knocked it. I have it at a 6 right now, and I honestly thought about putting it down further. This knife is $340, I think is what I paid. Which, you know, again, you have nice materials, nice carbon fiber, titanium, S90V steel, which is also coated. You have an automatic action, which is one of the smoothest that I've felt. But, you know, $340, that'll buy a lot of Microtechs. That'll buy almost any Hogue automatic. That'll buy a lot of ProTech automatics. That's a pretty hefty price tag. So I gave it a 6 for that. I think Benchmade's knives, I mean, I say this probably in about every Benchmade video, I think they're just a little bit overpriced. But yeah, I'm not disappointed. I don't regret spending the money. I just think it's a consideration. So anyway. And then finally, quality. Yeah, I mean, really happy to say this, along with the other Benchmades that I've reviewed. But the quality on this knife is excellent. I mean, the lock is very sturdy. Little bit of side-to-side play, but that's you know, somewhat to be expected with the axis lock. Um, but yeah, so I don't knock it too much for that. But, you know, not really any up and down play. I mean, very nice action, as I mentioned. This lock on top is easy to actuate. It's, you know, it can be a little bit slick trying to do it with one hand, but it's not bad. And they put this nice, like, jimping there, I guess, for your thumb. So it's makes it easier to actuate that additional lock. Yeah, everything's nicely machined though. I mean, you can see the titanium here is nicely chamfered. The carbon fiber is also nicely chamfered and machined. So I gave it a 9 in terms of quality. The only reason I knocked it a point is because I think Benchmade can do a little bit better at these seams here between the carbon fiber and the titanium. There's just a little bit of a gap in each location where it meets the titanium. But other than that, really well made knife, really well put together. And yeah, I don't think you'd be disappointed with this at all. And maybe, you know, maybe this little bit of a gap, maybe that's intentional, I don't know. But yeah, so in total, this knife scores at a 58, which is towards the higher end. I think it's, yeah, it's tied for third highest with the Impinda under the XM18 and the Rayot Jack 2.0. So pretty high scoring knife, and one that I would definitely recommend. I mean, if you like Benchmade, you know, as you know, their warranty's really good. Price is a little high, but you know, the construction's excellent. Good blade steel, very unique design, rides easily in the pocket. I do want to talk about competition. There are quite a few automatics that are somewhat similar to this, although the design itself is probably a little different. I mean, ProTech makes a lot of automatics that fire in this same fashion that are not out the fronts. I can't remember what those are called. ProTech makes quite a few. Hogue makes quite a few. Maybe not as high end. Maybe the materials may not be as high end as this, but you know, the price points are $100 less or more. So maybe something to consider there. ProTech's quality, Hogue's quality is also excellent. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you have any comments, you know, please leave them in the comments section. Please like and subscribe if you haven't. And have a good rest of the day, and we'll talk to you guys in the next one. Thanks. See you guys.